Coming to you live from a little grass shack in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's the Junior Kekuewa Jr. Show, starring Junior Kekuewa Jr.
Yeah, hurry up, let's go.
Join Junior along with the Wayne Borhe Band as he makes any kind from Hawaii.
Any kind.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Junior Kekuewa Jr.
Thank you, Hawaiians. Oh, Hawaiians. Boy, I tell you, okay, that's it, Hawaiians. Thank you very much. All right, on the podcast today, first of all, the attitude of gratitude. Okay, so welcome everybody. We'd like to welcome everybody who tunes into the podcast. And wherever you are, we just want to say a special thank you because there would be no podcast without you. Okay, our listeners are the thing that make the podcast. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here talking to myself and not you. Okay, so thank you so much, wherever you are in the world. All right, so on today's podcast, we're going to talk about attachment. Okay, now, this is the Law of Attraction comedy podcast. Okay, we're doing more mindset things, but it's the Law of Attraction. Why? Because when you have the right mindset, okay, you automatically attract better into your life, like automatic. Okay, so you don't really have to focus on like, okay, I'm going to try to manifest this. I'm going to try to manifest that. Manifestation happens whether you think so or not. Manifestation happens whether you believe in it or not. It's nothing you have to believe in. It automatically happens. It just happens. Okay, so manifestation is just, the result of your actions. And actions begin in thought. Okay, so it's what you think about. It's how you think. So, people that think really well, people that are good thinkers, they have good lives. Why? Because they're thinking of good stuff, okay? So people that don't think of good things or people that think fearful thoughts, right? So when the thoughts are fearful, what happens? Well, you get those results. And then you see, how those look, right? And it doesn't look good because either fearful thoughts, show up as scattered things or, when you're fearful, you're kind of thinking like, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope this doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't happen. And then all those things start happening. Okay. And then things become chaotic. Things get out of order. Okay. So anyway, we're going to talk about attachment today. So what is attachment in the spiritual sense? Okay. In a spiritual context, attachment is not, just liking or wanting something. It's the clinging or identification with people, outcomes, possessions, or beliefs. Okay, so as if your happiness depends on it. Like people say, well, I'll be happy when I get $1 million, or I'll be happy when I get a new car, or I'll be happy when I get a new house. Okay, so those things, when you put it in that order, you're doing it backwards. Okay, because what it really is, the way it really works is when you're happy, you get the new car. When you're happy, you get the new house. When you're happy, you get love. That kind of thing. Because, think of it this way, right? Think about love. Okay, so you're, going about your day-to-day life, right? And you're angry. Okay. Now, you meet a beautiful lady or a beautiful guy. Like, okay, maybe you don't want a beautiful guy. All right, maybe maybe it's just a regular dude. Okay? If you're a woman, okay? If you're a guy, it's a beautiful girl. Okay? You meet a beautiful girl, right? And then she's angry. Okay? Or you're angry. Do you think that's going to mix? Okay, it will probably mix if she's angry and you're angry, because I actually had that happen to me once. I had a relationship that was like that once, and we were both angry inside, like way down deep inside. At the time, I was way younger. I was young. Trust me, always, I was young. And so what ended up happening is we ended up taking out our frustrations on each other. Okay, now it wasn't all, I want to say it wasn't all bad, okay, but that underlying current was there, unresolved issues on both sides. Okay, so we started taking out, our frustrations, the unresolved issues on each other. And that, in the beginning, It's like it's not there. You don't see it coming, and then it starts. Okay, and then the subconscious replays everything in repetition. Okay, and on both sides. So the reaction, everything, it's reactionary on both sides, and then it just keeps going and it keeps playing out. Okay, because one thing leads to another, right? One bad thing, and then the next time something happens, like, oh yeah, well, remember that other thing, and then they bring it up, and then and now you're embroiled in that. So anyway, but attachment, okay, is clinging, is identifying with things. Okay, and now I'm talking about external things outside yourself. Okay, because things inside, okay, in the kingdom, right? Jesus Christ said the kingdom is within. Okay, so everything on the inside is not it's totally separate from the outside. Okay, but you can change everything from the inside. Okay, I'm talking about external circumstances. I'm talking about people on the outside. Nobody's inside you. Okay, God's inside of you. Okay, but God is not a person. God is not a people. Okay, so we got to establish that. Okay, God is an energy. Okay, but that's in you. I'm talking about like identifying with the position. Well, I'm a manager. Okay, now you've identified with that. The more you get into identifying with it, the more you identify yourself as it, the more people identify you as the manager. Now you've become that manager. Now that's the big part of your life. Okay, and some people are like this. Some people identify with their title. So I coach high performance professionals. That's what I call them. Because they have huge responsibilities. They have big jobs. They're responsible for a lot of people, or they're responsible for big things in a company. And these people, a lot of them, have identified themselves with their position. Now, with a lot of them, I try to get them out of this, okay, because it doesn't serve you. Why? Because you're identifying with something outside yourself. You're anchoring your value. You're anchoring your worth outside of yourself, okay? Because that's the position. It's not in you. It's out there, right? You step into the position. Okay, the position is there. It's already there. Now you sign up, right? You join the company, you sign up, so okay, I'll be the manager. You sign up, now you're that. But that was outside of you. That's not inside of you. Okay, inside of you, you're the person. And that inside, that part gets left behind if you're not careful. Okay, so what happens is, right, you start identifying with that external thing. And when you do, it creates suffering eventually. Okay, why is that? Why do you suffer if you're the manager? Well, because pretty soon everybody looks at you as that and not the person. If you're Bob who became the manager, and pretty soon, people identify with Bob the manager or as Bob the manager, right? What about Bob? You see? And so a lot of my professionals actually bring that up with me because they get too caught up with the position, too caught up with the job, too caught up, and then their whole life is work, right? So that becomes a problem. And it doesn't matter if it's the position. It doesn't matter if it's a possession. It doesn't matter if it's a material thing. It could be your car. You identify with your car. Now, let's say you're not a high-powered professional. Let's say you just work really hard, and then you bought this car, and you trick out. I've done it. You trick out the car. I had this Trans Am 402. the big tires, all that stuff, right? The chrome, all this stuff, right? And you trick it out, and and pretty soon, you're the guy with the car. You're the guy with the Trans Am. You're the guy with the, whatever it is, the Lamborghini. You're the guy with the, it doesn't have to be a real fancy car. It could be a Toyota. Okay, but if you put all your energy into it, if that's your life, right? Because I see these guys, they'll be in a parking lot, and they'll be shining their car up, right? Because they're putting their energy into that car. They're putting everything into that car. They're putting love into the car, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with taking pride in what you have. Excuse me. There's nothing wrong with appreciating what you have or loving what you have, okay? But when that becomes the defining point of who you are, okay, so if you're Bob the manager, if you're Bob the guy with the Trans Am, or if you're Bob the guy with the Porsche, if it's all about the Porsche, if it's all about, whatever. No, it has to be about Bob. Okay, Bob comes first. Okay, but a lot of people put themselves last. Okay, because we're taught a false sense of humility, first of all. Okay, I mean, there's a series of things that happens. Okay, one of the things is a false sense of humility. Now, humility does not mean thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. Okay, so when you're, let's say, diminishing your self-worth just to look humble or appear to be humble, you're trying to put yourself in the back of the line, so to speak, because you want other people to see you as a humble person. So you don't, maybe you go to a party, right? And somebody asks you what you do for a living, and you do, I just work. You're that kind of thing, right? So now what are you doing? You're actually putting yourself in the back of the line. Okay? Because why? Because you're diminishing what it is that you do. Okay? So this works, this works with possessions, this works with positions, this works with people. This works with relationships, with careers, okay? All these things. But when you start, identifying with something exterior, something outside yourself, then attachment begins to happen, okay? And you start mistaking external things such as wealth, relationships, status for true inner stability, okay? I saw this in action once. I walked into this hotel, and I was working in radio at the time. And I was walking into this hotel, and I saw this other girl, this lady that worked in radio too, and she was at the counter. This was a hotel front desk, and she was at the desk at the counter. And I happened to be walking through the lobby, and I didn't really, turn around and look, right? But I heard her voice, and I go, oh, I know that voice, right? And that voice was saying, do you know who I am? And I'm like, whoa. And I turned around because I thought, whoa, I know that voice, right? And I turned around and I saw it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I scampered away. I tried to hide so that she wouldn't see me, because I witnessed that, right? And I don't think it would have mattered or whatever, whatever. But I just got out of there. Okay. Now that's attachment. Okay. And that is attachment to her status. She had been attached to her status. Okay. And I remember when she got let go from another radio station, I actually witnessed this. When she got let go, she had a huge problem with it and expressed it all over social media. Okay, so because there was this attachment to the status. Now, when the status goes, guess what? You feel empty. Okay, when I left radio, I just walked out. I'm just like, okay, well, whatever, bye, done. And the first time I was like, well, okay, I'm done for now. And the second time when it came around again, I'm like, okay, no, this time I'm done. And I put it on social media that I retired from entertainment because I just had it already. I was too, how do I say this? I was grateful for the experience, but I was tired of the politics. I was just tired of the politics. And it was another string along kind of game. And that's the way it's played. I mean, that's the way it's played. You wanna play ball, you play by their rules, and I'm talking about they. When I say they, I mean the people that control the game, the people that, have the, they're doing things their way because it's their game. And you gotta play their game. Okay. And I got tired of playing their game, and I said, okay, no more. That's it. I'm done. And I think, at the point in which you make that decision, see, there was no attachment for me to the status, not the first time, not the second time. If I did it again, it would not be again. the status thing would not be a thing for me. Did I have status? Yeah, I had huge status in Hawaii. Yeah, huge status. But, was I attached to it? Did I thrive on it? What did I depend on it? No. And I didn't walk around telling people, like, do you know who I am? I mean, in Hawaii, I didn't have to say that because they already knew who I was, But if your happiness depends on your status, okay, if you're clinging or identifying with your status, okay, something's wrong because there's an emptiness inside. Okay, I was full inside. I had a lot of people that loved me. I loved a lot of people. So I mean, and I'm not just talking about relationships. I'm talking about friendships. I'm talking about people that I trusted, people that I loved. And there were several key people that actually kept me grounded. So I didn't have to be absorbed, by the status. I didn't have to be overcome by the status. I didn't have to allow the status to control me. I did not have to have that attachment. Okay, we're talking about attachment today. Okay. So when you attach to status or a relationship, I can't live without that girl. I know men that have committed suicide because they were so attached to a certain female, whatever, right? And then that goes bad and she leaves and then, and he committed suicide, that kind of thing. That's a real thing. I mean, this exists, okay? And in men, okay, because men and women love differently, men take this stuff serious, okay? And they deal with it physically, and sometimes that's a bad thing. There was another case in Hawaii that, I wasn't familiar with the people or whatever. I didn't know them or anything. But the guy, right, this girl, I guess got into his head too much and he was obsessed. And I guess the breakup word was, uttered or thrown around. And, it was kind of like, well, if I can't have her, nobody can have her kind of thing. And he actually killed her. And this is terrible. This is terrible stuff because people don't understand the roots of these things. And if people understood this more, okay, if people understood the bottom line and how this happens and how not to attach to it, I think the world would be a better place, okay? Attachment causes suffering because life is impermanent. Okay, what does that mean? Impermanent? That means it's not permanent. That means everything in the universe, okay, is moving. Everything is evolving. Everything is growing. Okay, and this is partially why marriage is broken. Okay, marriage is broken. Now, okay, marriage is good for some people, okay, for a certain amount of time, and then boom, it goes. Why? Because two sides grow. If you're not growing together, you're going to grow apart. It's that simple. Excuse me. If you're not growing, let me say it again. If you're not growing together, you're going to grow apart. Okay? And nothing is static in the universe. Okay? Nothing is still in the universe. Nothing is fixed in the universe. Everything evolves. So this is why. So I'm not just talking about relationships or marriage per se. I'm talking about everything. Everything evolves. You're not the person you were last year. You're a little different. Okay. You may think you're the same person. You may go, well, the majority of stuff, and then you go, well, okay, this is different. Yeah. Okay. That's different. Okay. No, things are changing. You're going to be different every year. Okay. Everything changes. People leave. Okay. Situations shift. Bodies age. Wealth comes and goes. I mean, there's some years where you make a lot of money and then some years you don't. I'm an entrepreneur. That happens to me. Some years I make a lot of money. Some years I don't make a lot of money. It's just the way it is. Okay. I'm not here to say, yeah, I'm banging like every year I'm balling. Like every year I'm balling. No, that does not happen. Okay. Things come in cycles. and I remember the pandemic. And I knew a lot of people. I knew this one guy in the pandemic. And I'm just going to tell you this story because I found it amusing. okay? Because what goes around comes around, okay? So this guy, I had to do a show where I didn't have my sound man because my sound man had to do something. So I had to go to a sound company, right? So they provide the engineer, the sound, right? And the engineer and the sound system, and you rent it for X number of dollars, right? So I was over a barrel and I had to hire somebody, okay? And I hired this guy, and it was way expensive, like way expensive, okay? It wasn't worth what I got, put it that way, okay? But because this guy had a big company that was doing well, okay, very well, he was making a lot of money, okay, I had to pay the price. So I'm like, okay, all right, I gotta eat this one, right? And so I paid it. And then when they came up to the place to set up and all of that, I saw how he treated the guys that worked for him. Okay, and he was terrible. This guy ordered his people around. Now I had a crew. Okay, I never ordered my crew around ever. In fact, I remember saying to one of my boys, my producer, Sam, I told Sam one day, this was like way back. I think we were in our second year of production. We were doing the Junior Kekuewa Junior Roadshow. You can look at it on Facebook. It's on Facebook, the Junior Kekuewa Junior Roadshow. And we no longer do it. We retired in 2019. But you can see it, and you can see everything that we did. Anyway, we were like a couple of years in, right? And I had I don't know, I forgot what the situation was, but I told him, I said, I never order you guys around because I think people that do that are jackasses. And he goes, oh, trust me, if you were like that, we wouldn't work for you. You see? So even if nobody says anything, because he never said anything for 2 years, right? I didn't know. But yeah, he goes, yeah, if you were like that, we wouldn't work for you. So, what comes around goes around. Anyway, so this guy, that company that I had to hire, so he's ordering his guys around. And I thought it was shameful. Like this guy was like, I want to say it was borderline. It was cocky, but it was also borderline mean. Because yeah, I wouldn't treat my people like that. And so I had a very bad opinion of this guy because of the way that he treated these young guys that worked for him. So anyway, and it's, probably they need a job, right? So they got to work for somebody, and then they ended up working for him. But during the pandemic, we had retired the show a year earlier, and the timing was perfect because in 2020, here came the pandemic, and we did not have a show that we had to refund contracts or do anything like that. So we were good. We were clear, and we satisfied all of our contracts, and we were good. But this guy, so I saw this guy because he was on my Facebook, and I saw this guy, putting all his equipment on Facebook Marketplace. And he was putting all the equipment on, whatever. And I cracked up. I was laughing, and I was laughing because this guy was going broke, okay, because of the pandemic, because there was no events to do. And he was an events guy, right? He did the sound and lights for events, and he was going broke. And I was like, yeah, see, that's what you get for treating those guys like that. Now, the test is like, who can stay in business? A lot of guys stayed in business, somehow they scratched, they put together things somehow, right? And they stayed in business. But these guys, right? And the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And he was pretty big. He was very big. And everything was up for sale, like everything. I don't know if he's back in business now, but during the pandemic, he had to sell things to get by. He had to sell things to make ends meet. And we suffered too. In different areas. I lost two companies. I lost two companies to the pandemic, and I created two more. During the pandemic, I created two more companies. But the bottom line here is that what you sow, you reap, right? The things that you plant, okay, they blossom, they bloom. Okay, if you're planting bad stuff, if you're doing bad stuff, it's gonna grow. and one day it's going to bite you, you know? So this attachment thing, right? Because life is impermanent, okay? You don't know what's coming. You do not know what's coming. Now, something bad could be coming, and you could be right in the face of it and suffer the consequences. Okay, so let's say if your happiness depends on someone loving you, okay, and their withdrawal or their change, like if they change, they don't love you anymore, that kind of thing will devastate you. Okay, you're attached to not just that person, but the emotions of it. Okay, so you're attached to emotions. Your subconscious attaches you to things. Your subconscious will say, okay, well, you're enjoying this love emotion. Now you're addicted to the love emotion. Why? Because your subconscious feeds it to you. Okay, not only will it feed it to you in the way that that person is giving that emotion that you're craving, okay, and you get used to it. So, you want it over and over and over and over, that kind of thing. It's not just that. It's that your subconscious is going to look for evidence of that, of those types of energies, okay? And it's going to go, oh, yeah, look, emotions here, this one, this thing. You're emotionally tied to this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. And pretty soon you get emotional, okay? I've seen men that are emotional, emotional men. It's not a pretty sight. It gets ugly. It gets ugly when the downside happens, when the vacuum happens, and there's that back end, okay? And that back end will come up and hit you, that vacuum. Okay, first there's the void. Okay, so whatever it is, right? You take it out. So let's say it's an emotional roller coaster. Let's say there's a bunch of love there. All of a sudden, that love gets taken away. Now there's a vacuum. When that vacuum space, when that space closes, okay, it's going to hit. Okay, imagine two walls, okay, and something is preventing those walls to touch. Okay, but when that's taken out, right, those two walls slam together. Okay, that's the reaction. Okay, I'm just trying to put a picture in your head. Okay, the loss of freedom. What about the loss of freedom? Well, attachment narrows your choices because you feel chained to what you feel losing. Okay, what you feel you're going to lose. What you fear you're going to lose. Okay, so attachment narrows your choices. Because you go, well, like, yeah, gotta have this or gotta have that, and I can only have this, I can only have that. Okay. So there's loss of freedom. What about identity confusion? Well, this is when you start believing you are your job. Okay. Your partner, your possessions, and then when they change or when they leave or when whatever, something happens, right? And the situation changes, you feel lost. When you start believing you're your job, that you are your job, okay, you start identifying, okay, I'm the lawyer, I'm the doctor, I'm the dentist, I'm the physicist, I'm the engineer, okay, and you start identifying that way and not like, okay, I'm Bob or I'm Sally or whatever, right? And start thinking about you as a person. No, you start thinking about the job. Why? Because it was the job that bought the house. It was the job that got the, maybe the Mercedes or the Maserati or maybe the, Ferrari or maybe the, Lamborghini, whatever it is, right? It was the job. So now you hold the job in high regard. Now you worship the job. Now it's all about the job. Okay, God lives within you. Okay, God lives within you, so you should direct your attention inside. And this is why Jesus Christ said, seek first the kingdom, right? And everything will be added unto you. Because when you seek that first, it's within you. When you go within first, you're going to discover that there is a very superficial physical world. Okay. Now, I meditate a lot. I meditate sometimes for 3 hours. Like 3 hours every morning. Okay. sometimes hour and a half. It depends. Sometimes an hour. Lately, I've been busy. It's been an hour. Okay, but an hour at a time. 3 hours at a time. And what you're going to discover is that this world, this physical world that you live in, excuse me, this physical world that you live in is an illusion. It's an illusion. It's illusionary. Why is it illusionary? I can touch it. Yeah, you can touch it. But those things have been set up for you. Okay, you live in a maze. You live on a merry-go-round, and this has all been set up for you. Okay, because you're not that. Okay, you're not the job. You're not the car. You're not the house. Okay, you're not the workplace. You're not the. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so all the things that you go to, like the formality stuff, Thanksgiving. Okay, we're having Thanksgiving. Everybody has to give thanks. Okay, it's an excuse for a great dinner, a great party. Okay, we're going to watch football. We're going to have Thanksgiving. We're going to eat turkey. Okay, but then you do it every year. Okay, it's a ritual. It becomes a ritual. Then on December 24th, it's Christmas. Okay, so now we're doing Christmas, and now it's a ritual. Okay, why? Because you do it every year. And then now we're doing New Year's. Oh, it's fireworks time. And now you do this every year. And not only that, but these things come at a price. You know, a lot of people sacrifice for Christmas presents. A lot of people sacrifice for fireworks. You know, and when I say sacrifice, I mean, okay, we're going to take the money, we're going to take the food money, and we're going to buy presents. We're going to take the tuition money for the kids, and we're going to, you know, whatever. I'm just saying, that's an extreme. But I'm just saying. Okay, when you start to separate these things, when you start to separate reality from what has been set up for you, and you start looking at it, you go, oh, okay, I see how the suffering happens. Because you identify with Christmas, or you identify with whatever it is. You know, some people identify with Easter, and they go, okay, well, Jesus rose on Easter. And then they find out, no, it's a pagan celebration of fertility. And they go, what? They're like, what? Yeah, when you do the research, when you look under the hood, yeah. And then you look at, you know, Saturnalia, right? December 25th, you know, that kind of thing. And you look at all the underpinnings of that, and you go, whoa, like, wow, I've been had. And then you start to go, oh, wow, yeah. I invested like my belief. I put my heart in that. I put my heart in Jesus. I mean, you know, and then come to find out, no, that wasn't the thing, that Jesus was born in June. You know, when you do this research, you will find the truth, and the truth will set you free. But before the truth sets you free, it will be painful, because you're going to have to detach from the delusion. You're going to have to detach from the things that are set up for the masses. Okay? And the things that are set up for the masses to enjoy are not necessarily the truth. Okay? So there's this thing, right? George Carlin said there's this big club that you're not a part of. You know, he said there's this big club and you're not in it. You know, and you're not, and neither am I. Okay, we're participants in this world, in the commercial world, in commerce, in capitalism in the United States, in capitalism. Okay, if you're in another country, then maybe in communism, maybe in something else, maybe in fascism, maybe in something else. Okay, and maybe you see the different elements of these things happen within your own government, and it kind of shifts. It kind of goes back and forth like that. And you pick and choose. Okay? But when you see the truth will liberate you, because the truth will say, oh, see, it's not like that. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. That's just window dressing. That's just a label that they put on this. And as you do more meditation, you'll find that God is bigger and deeper and more powerful than you ever imagined. Why? because they tell you this story, because they feed you the story. Okay? And they feed it to you over and over and over. And sometimes it starts in Sunday school. And sometimes it starts, at a private Bible study. And sometimes, but the understanding of it, when you stand under something, you begin believing in it. Okay? So you're going to find as you go down into even the law of attraction, all of this stuff. Okay? When you get down to the basic understandings of all of this, you're going to understand that you as a human being have the power. You were given the power. But, here's your big fat but. You ready, Hawaiians? You ready for your big fat but? Okay, but you were made to feel small. Okay? Because nobody wants you to have that power. When I say nobody, I'm talking about the people that run the game, not the players in the game. Well, some of the players in the game. Okay, the players that know. And not everybody is privy to that information. You gotta go pretty high up on the ladder to get the people that know. Okay, I've sat next to, government officials that had very specific conversations of things, and I'm like, whoa. Like, in the beginning, I was kind of like, wow, really? But then because I knew a lot of truth, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's, because there's things that they tell the masses that they won't share the inside with the masses. Because if everybody knows, they lose the power. The power's gone. Okay, so emotional roller coaster, right? Loss of freedom. Okay, so attachment narrows your choices. Right? Loss of freedom, because you feel chained to what you fear losing. Okay? Identity confusion. What is that? Well, you start believing you are your job, your partner, your possessions, your car, your house. And when they change or when you lose it, you feel like your foundation is gone. You feel like you don't have any footing anymore because what you identified with is gone. Okay, I lost my things 5 times, like everything. I lost everything I owned 5 times in my life when I was in my 20s, early 20s. Okay, and then I was on the street for a few months. Best thing that ever happened to me. Best thing that ever happened to me because I have a different idea of possessions now. And I'm totally like easy come, easy go. If everything went tomorrow, I would be, too bad. Damn, I put a lot into it. But I will know that, okay, it's going to come again. Why? Because you attract who you are. Okay, so it comes back. I had a really good life as a kid, right? And then I threw it all away, and then it came right back. It came right back. Okay, now, how do you know that you're suffering from attachment? Okay, so if you have fear of loss, if you fear losing things, okay, I have no fear of loss, which is probably why I have too much stuff. Okay, because it keeps piling up, and I gotta remind myself to, okay, let's go donate, let's go, give this away, give that away, whatever. But fear of loss. Okay, when you're being selfish, okay, selfish people, they think of themselves, right? They have fear of loss. Okay, they fear loss all the time. Okay, which is why they don't give. They fear loss. You'll hear people talk about the value of money. Oh, the value of money. You need to know the value of money. What value? They print money. It's worth the paper it's printed on, and that's about it. The rest is perception. So what's the cure? Well, you don't fear losing money. You attract money. You focus on how you can attract money, the services that you can provide, the things that you can do to attract money. You focus on those things. Don't fear loss. If you fear losing money, guess what? You're going to keep losing money. Why? Because the focus is fear concerning money, fear concerning money. Okay. Focus on abundance. Focus on more money. Focus on money always showing up. always being there, always coming. How do you do that? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization all day long. Start writing affirmations about more than enough money. Start meditating on more than enough money. Start vocalizing, speaking it, more than enough money. If you're walking around saying, I can't afford that, or I wish I could afford that, or, money grows on trees or whatever like that, that's fear of loss, okay? And you're always going to be in that state perpetually, okay? So clinging to things, difficulty with letting things go. If you have too much, give. If you fear giving, or if you hesitate giving, there's fear involved, okay, when you're hesitating. If you're hesitating, then you're going to suffer loss. Why? Because you're holding back. You're hesitating. You're holding back. You have to give. When you give, you receive, okay? It's that simple. Emotional dependence, okay? Here's another one, right? Your peace depends on external circumstances being just right if you're dependent on your emotions. Just right. Okay, emotional depend. Oh, I got to feel good about doing this. I'm going to wait till I feel good about doing this. I mean, whatever. Okay? If you're dependent on your emotions, okay, that's another thing. What about resentment and anger? Yeah, that's another one, okay? When life doesn't meet your expectations, you become bitter, and then what? You suffer loss. Okay? Those emotions are equal to less than. Okay? Or when you over-identify with something. Okay, saying things like, without this job or without this relationship, I'm nothing. How many times I go to, I go to like birthday parties or retirement parties, and the guy ends up thanking his wife. And he goes, without Barbara or whatever, without Susie, whoever, right? Without so-and-so, right? I never would have, gotten here without her. That's over-identification. Now, he means well. He means to flatter. He means to tribute. He means to pay tribute, right? But that kind of thinking, just those words being uttered, tells you how he really thinks inside and how he really feels inside. That's over-identification. Okay? That suggests that without your wife, you're nothing, which is not true. Okay, you're half. You're half of that. Maybe she brings half to the table. You bring half to the table. She brings good things. You bring good things. Okay. But if you're giving it all up to her, or if you're a woman giving it all up to your husband like that, in that way, okay, chances are there's a lot of over-identification. Or you hear people say things like, my better half. Oh, this is my better half. So what's the other side if that side is better? Your worst half? You are your worst half? Okay. I understand. It's meant to flatter. I understand it's meant to, it's meant to appease. It's meant to, bring to attention the good side of that person. I understand. Okay, but when you start believing it, when you start thinking it, you start speaking it, okay, you'll start believing it. Okay, and that's over-identification. Okay, how to overcome? How are you going to overcome all this stuff? How are you going to overcome attachment? Well, attachment is subconscious. Okay, it doesn't mean you stop caring though. When you're trying to break attachment, okay, when you do detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. Doesn't mean that you don't love anymore. It means you love and you engage without clinging. That's what it means. Okay, non-identification, okay, which is the feeling that you're not your roles, you're not your possessions or achievements. You are awareness, and you need to come from awareness, okay? Just like you're not your body and you're not your name, okay? Your body was given to you, Your name was given to you. I know you're gonna look at the body one and you go, oh, well, wait a minute. What do you mean it was given to me? Yeah, it was given to you. You are awareness. You live in your body. Awareness lives in the body. There's a separation between the body and the spirit. The spirit inhabits the body, and the spirit has control over the body all day long. The spirit tells the body what to do. When you look at the 666 thing, and I'm not going to get deep in this stuff, but when you look at 666, right? Everybody goes, oh, that's Satan. No, it refers to the body. Go look it up. Go look it up. It refers to the body. But because there's a separation of the body and the spirit, 666 represents the physical beast, the man, the human. Okay? The human. Go look up human and see what it means. That's what it's talking about. What's the other thing? The other thing is the divine. The other thing is the spirit. Your spirit never touches the ground. The only thing that touches the ground is your physical body. So there's opposites. There's spirit on one side, and on the other side, there's physical. And your physical body is anchored into the physical world. When that relationship is over, the physical body and the physical world, the spirit leaves. But until that happens, the spirit is in control. Your spirit does not sin. Your body sins. It does all the physical stuff. It does all the, whatever, right? It does all the addiction. It does all that stuff. The physical doesn't, the spiritual doesn't do that. Okay? So there's a separation. Okay, it's important that I say that. So another way to overcome this attachment is to accept impermanence. Okay, meditate on change. Understand that change constantly happens. Okay, she doesn't love you today. Tomorrow she loves you. On Thursday she doesn't love you anymore, and then on Friday she loves you again. Women do that because why? They're emotional beings. They function on their emotions. To men, this can be very confusing. Okay, but you cannot hold her accountable on the days she doesn't love you because she's not, quote, feeling it, end quote. There you go. Yeah, I know. It's hard to wrap your mind around that one. Okay. But when you understand it and when you operate from that, and on her bad days when she doesn't love you, she might even say, I hate you, whatever, when she's in a really bad mood. Okay, leave her alone. Let her go. Let her be. Give her that freedom. A lot of guys will try to make it right and they'll follow and they'll go, no, but honey, but, whatever. Or they'll come back with, yeah, but I did this, I did that, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do. Okay, so that's, impermanence. That's impermanence at its finest. Cultivate detachment. That's another thing. Okay, detachment is not being cold. It's not being cold towards somebody. Okay, it's able to appreciate them fully without trying to own or control. Okay, can you not control someone and just love them? Can you try not to, own something and not control it, but just allow it to be? Okay, practice that. Okay, and mindfulness is important. Why? Because you need to watch your thoughts. You can observe your thoughts without engaging in them. Okay, the thoughts bring emotions. If you don't engage with the thought, you're not going to engage with the emotion. You can allow that to pass. In fact, if you don't engage with the thought, you might not feel the emotion at all. Okay? This is when you become the observer. This is mindfulness. Okay? To be mindful of something, to know that this is like this, and that if I don't engage, it's going to pass. You know that expression, this too will pass? Okay? Because it does.
because the universe is impermanent. Nothing is static. Everything is changing. The way you feel today is going to be totally different a year from now. Well, with certain things. I mean, nothing is cut and dried, right? So there's going to be some things, and then there's going to be other things that stay the same. There's going to be a few things that stay the same. There's going to be some things that'll be different. But you'll find that when you take this attitude towards things, okay, when you put this into your subconscious, affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization, it'll be easier to acquire this skill. Easier. Oh, sorry, Hawaiians, I gotta go. But it'll be easier. Why? Because you'll understand. You'll have that new understanding. And when you have that new understanding, life changes. Okay? Mindfulness. Cultivate detachment and accept impermanence. All right. So that's our that's our podcast on attachment. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I want to thank the Voice Master family of service companies and also AFM Hawaii Music, featuring the music of Darren Janen. Yes. Hey, until next time, I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. saying mahalo and aloha.